Okay, well, no, let me wait. No, I can wait for real. It won't let me do it. All right. We on time tonight, y'all.
Yep.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I believe it.
I can't. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. All right. What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us tonight. We're ready to drop some jewels again on you all. So, with that being said, tonight's topic: how to improve mediocre communication in a relationship. As always, well, not always, but tonight we do have a question,
Mm-hmm.
viewer question. It's not a letter.
Question. No.
Okay, just a question. So no letter, long letter and
Well, no,
scenario.
it is a. This one's pretty long tonight.
Okay.
Not too long, but I think the woman gave a good amount of detail that was pretty much needed about communication. And of course, this is going to be great to apply to a lot of different relationships. And we're going to segue that into what we consider some signs that, hey, you may be a mediocre communicator and how to kind of improve on that, especially if you're in a relationship, because it can be, not very beneficial overall. So we got a lot to dig into. It should be exciting.
Yep. Before we start, communication. A lot of times we take that for granted in relationships. Oftentimes you do have to overly communicate in order to make sure that you all are basically in line with what you all agreed with in the beginning of a relationship, as far as boundaries and communication is concerned. So a lot of people fall out of their relationship because of the lack of communication.
Yeah.
We don't want to face our fears. We don't want to face our trials and tribulations, and we don't want to face each other. So how can you progress in your relationship or make things better without proper communication? A lot of times we both, well, not we both, but people quit in their relationships and just get defeated. And also too, it's not a one person relationship cannot exist with just one person.
No.
If you're in that situation, you really need to get some help and trying to inspire change in your spouse and hope that they are receptive.
Yeah. And that's what we are providing tonight.
Right.
Little piece of that help to really move this along when it comes to relationships. And it's common, but let's get into this question, because this is really going to help us bring it on in to first be able to help a question that was brought to us. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free throughout the stream to drop on in, and we'll of course, answer those questions. We are so happy to have you all here.
Yep.
Facebook,
live
Instagram,
show.
YouTube.
Yep. This is a live show. Take advantage while you can.
Yeah, this is all love. We're all here for the love. So here, let me pull this on up real quick. This is kind of a long one, like I said. So Instagram, just listen on in, and you're welcome to join us on YouTube if you want to see it. But, we're going to keep you up to date as we go along for sure. So subject: the communication sucks in my relationship. We've been together for 2 years. He's 32 and I'm 26. We never told each other we love each other. At this point, I'm just starting to question our entire relationship. I do, in fact, love him very much. I just don't think me saying it will make him open up. I don't know if there's red flags that I've missed along the way. I understand that communication is a two-way street, and I will admit that I have a lot to work on as well. But sometimes his lack of communication comes off as a lack of interest in the relationship as a whole, and it's giving me anxiety. He won't talk about his day at work. He won't talk about his feelings about me. He won't talk about a prospective future together. He won't talk about what he does on his days off and when I don't see him. He's just very quiet in the relationship in general. I feel like I'm always telling him about my day and my future and goals, and it's not like I don't take an interest in his, but he rarely has anything to say. We do talk throughout most of every day, but it's usually about our common interests. He won't even initiate a date night or a time for us to meet, and I feel like I'm always the one making the plans. There are days, especially on Fridays, when I won't hear from him for 12 hours straight. And then a week later, he briefly mentions that he was at a happy hour last Friday and then went home and played video games. And it annoys me that he never tells me, hey, I'm going to happy hour tonight, or even invites me to any of them. The only time we've actually communicated our feelings was this one time when we were about to meet each other's parents. He told his parents about me within like 6 months into our relationship before I told my parents about him. I brought up the concerns to my boyfriend about how I was not comfortable telling my parents unless I was sure his feelings for me were genuine. His response was, why do you think I want you to meet my parents? And that's the closest he comes to saying he cares about me. We eventually meet each other's parents and it all went well, but there hasn't been anything since then. I just don't really know where to go from here. What do you two think?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
This is giving me vibes of side chick. These are giving me side chick vibes. There's no commitment from this man, and she's 26, he's 32. More than likely, with that missing time that he's going through, he's more than likely spending that with someone else. And men, it's not rare that men will bring multiple females around their family, to be honest with you. And
She might just be the top contender per se.
or a contender. She may be one of the top two contenders. Now, understand this. If this is pretty much up to her, whether she wants to stay in a relationship like this. And this is a realistic situation. If you're dating a man and he's doing stuff like this, you have to understand that you may be competing with another female for his time, and he's not going to be honest with you. So therefore, you do have to be direct in your questions, and you have to use discernment, like we talked about in the last video, to realize, hey, this guy's lying to me, or either two, he's telling me the truth, and you take it for what you want to take it as. Then, so if you want to stay in this situation, it's not a relationship. If you want to stay in this situation and fight for this man, then so be it. But the thing here is that he's not communicating any signs that he wants to actually be with you for 2 years. Meeting parents.
Yeah.
Meeting parents does not mean that I want to be with you. This is just somebody he's bringing around.
Yeah, it's a lot missing for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
How is he communicating? He could just say, hey, this is my friend such and such, or whatever the case may be. So now you're noticed in the family as the friend.
Well, I'm assuming that he didn't introduce her as a friend because I think that she was pretty honest here. So I think that maybe she would have said that. But the fact, I get what you're saying though. It didn't seem like he's saying, oh, this is a woman that I want to marry or something like that.
Right, exactly. It's not head over.
Yeah.
He ain't giving no vibes of head over heels, or I'm totally sold on this female. So that's what I was saying, that she's in the she is in the side chick bucket. So that's where she's sitting at, and that is pretty much up to her if she really wants to continue and forego this relationship with him. This man, of course, like I always say, the man chooses relationship. He will propose to her if he wants to, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. And the fact that she's 26, so therefore she has to use discernment. So if he's not showing any signs that she actually wants to be with him, he hasn't moved in with her, he ain't asked her for anything, from what I understand.
Somebody said, hell yeah, he's cheating.
Right, exactly.
Facts. You go missing for 12 hours and then they ain't got much to say about it.
Yeah, the real ones know. If you know, you know. I used to be much of a player back in my day, and I see signs and did things like this. Yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah, I'll go. You go ghost for a week like he did, and be like, oh, I was just at the happy hour with my friends and buddies. And
well, not a week. It's 12 hours straight, and then she said, then a week later he will briefly mention. So that means like he'll go missing on Friday, and then like later on during the week somehow it's brought up in conversation. I'm
Right,
assuming that's what she's saying.
right, right, exactly. So this guy, he's but you know what? It's not it all he it all depends on if he said that they're really boyfriend and girlfriend, because he didn't even say that he loved her. So
Right.
how can you love
2
somebody that's
years.
not your, you can love somebody, but the thing is, if you haven't confessed your love for your this girl that you're dating, then she's not your girlfriend. And so therefore, uh, does this constitute cheating? Is this really cheating?
Right, because it's not so much an established relationship.
Relationship,
He hasn't
exactly.
even talked about the future. She said that he hasn't talked about the
and
future with
and
them or
and
anything.
hopeful women do this. They like to see where you are, and they just go and start talking about the future without asking you directly. So what are we? That was one of the first videos that we did a long time ago. And it is very important for women that find themselves in these situations to ask that man directly in his eyes. So what are we? So that you understand what position you're playing, and if you're comfortable doing that. You don't necessarily have to be in a situation with a guy who does this to you. I'm all for people finding love in real relationships. I understand that sometimes it may take time, but 2 years, 2 years. We talked about time limits for relationships. 2 years now, they should be living together. These people should be living together, but obviously there's something that his intentions are not aligned with her. And he's not looking for a relationship with her. He's looking for relations with her. And more than likely, that is what he's giving her. So therefore, she needs to be very direct and ask him, so what are we? And then if she likes the response that is given back, then she can continue with this if she wants to. But the thing is that if he's not establishing anything to give her any indication that he intends on one day marrying her, then I would say that she needs to find someone who is more intentional about being in a relationship and marriage, because this brother here does not. He doesn't have it, from what she's stating,
Yeah.
and I can tell that she really wants to be in a relationship with him.
Yeah.
I really do, and my heart goes out to women like that, because especially if you're in your divine feminine role and you're doing everything that you can do, but he's trying to stay away from her. This guy is
Yeah.
avoiding her because
That's
he
understandable.
knows, because the guy knows that he don't have a defense for a good woman. And that's one thing that I knew too when I was young, is that if you hang around a woman long enough and she starts playing wife, it's hard for you to break away from that. It's hard for you to dismiss that, because you know deep, and if you're a good man, you know deep down inside that you're about to do somebody wrong, and then you're gonna have to pay that back in karma.
Mm.
So that's what he's doing here. He's trying to distance himself. He has her at a distance. And he brings her in close enough just to get what he wants from her. Then he puts her back into that distance.
Mm.
That's that side chick. That's how guys keep side chicks. They keep you at a distance. They don't answer the phones when you call them. They call you. She's deciding the dates, because he
Yeah.
knows that in order to keep getting access to her, he's going to have to go on dates with her and give her something to look forward to. And if you don't, and once you stop doing those things, then she's going to stop trying to entertain you, and then stop giving you access to her body. And that's what you're getting here.
Yeah.
So this young lady, she really needs to. I pray that your parents are still married, and then I pray that you are able to get counsel from your father. If they met
Mm.
both of their parents, then she needs to go back and talk to her dad and explain this situation that's going on and see what
Mm.
he says. And I'm hope her father is a married man, so that he can give her some good advice on what relationships are supposed to look like at year 2, and
Mm.
in that dating situation, quote unquote,
Yeah.
because they're barely a boyfriend and girlfriend situation that's going
Right.
on. They're more so side chick and side dude that's going on here.
Yeah.
So that is my advice to her and
Yeah.
to anybody who finds themselves in this type of situation.
Yeah.
That's really up to her whether she want to compete for this man or not. But I mean, she's going to go have to go through some struggles. He's 32. He probably, he's probably making good money. Probably. I don't know. I really don't know that part. Maybe not.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I always like when people. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
Are
you
you
go ahead.
done?
No, I'm done. Yeah.
You sure?
Hmm.
Okay. I'm sorry. Um, I always think, yeah, with at 32, yeah, in particular, he should have some idea of what he's looking for, and this lack of any communication is, I think I did have some general thoughts on like why a man possibly wouldn't be communicating in general, just to explore some different avenues. But in particular, I love when people are able to write in, and we always encourage writing in, even if you don't send it to us or you just write it down within your journal. Because she pointed out, she said, I don't know if there's red flags that I missed along the way. And then she goes into all the red flags, so it's just like,
Right, those are the red flags.
Writing really does,
She-
especially when you journal, it really does help.
Let's point out something. All right, she said that there's red flags that she missed along the way. She don't know if there are any that she missed along the way.
Well,
Lack of communication is one of them.
He won't talk about his days, and
that's a
his
red flag.
feelings.
There's 2.
Won't talk about
his feelings. Won't talk about the future. That's 4 or 5. Won't talk about
what he does on his
days off. There's 6. So she don't even know his hobbies other than that he plays video games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
he's quiet about relationship in general.
Not initiating date night. Yeah.
Yep, he don't even care to go on. He'll go on a date with her, but he don't care what date it is.
Yeah.
He don't have any input or try to put any effort into help planning anything around. I mean, she didn't name about 8 or 10 red flags. That was all that you missed.
Yeah. No, I don't even think she missed them, but I think she ignored them. Like, just she's seen them, because the fact that you're able to write these down, like, you picked up on them. So it's like, don't ignore them, though, because you ignore them, then, you get in a situation like this where it's 2 years you've been in a relationship. That is an extremely long time. And I would have to, I think it's a comment saying, live your life. A marriage should not come until 30 years of age. I would have to disagree with that. When it comes to a man, sure, I would agree. 30 is a pretty good age.
Not for a woman, though.
Yeah, but not for a woman. I think she's right on target for looking to get married and looking to settle down. I mean, because why would you want to have kids in your 30s when, you hit high risk pregnancy, like what, 32, 30, 35? What is that for high risk? I don't know. I had my kids early, so I never had to address that issue. But it's, it's risky, and it's a lot harder.
33.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to get pregnant. You don't get the time to enjoy. I love the fact of you getting married early and then having the time to enjoy your spouse before you bring in children. You hit 30. If a woman doesn't get married or even start considering marriage until 30, then you're looking at her not quickly being able to she's going to quickly want to have kids. And when you bring kids into a relationship, it complicates things even more. So I certainly think that you want the time to spend with your spouse before you have kids so that you can enjoy each other before you bring that whole aspect in. But, that's just my input on it. Everybody is going to be different, but just honestly, I think we even had a show on that before. Like, men should wait to get married until they're ready and established and really committed to wanting to do this. But women, I don't think that they should wait. Nature, it definitely does not agree with waiting, because I don't agree with women having children outside of marriage. So, but that just all will depend. I mean, and we can agree to disagree, but it really just all depends completely. So on the person per se, but I certainly think she's in a great age to be considering marriage and having a relationship, certainly at 26. So my issue, though, is the fact that you've been doing this for 2 years with a man who has not given you any input of wanting to marry you. That is a big, waste of time. You don't want to waste your time with someone who you're lacking communication with. And, there are many reasons why a man might not communicate that much within a long-term relationship. So here's some common reasons. Some simple things that I kind of thought about that you want to play back in your head if these are some things that you might recognize. So the first one would be like if you wasn't raised in a household where communication was valued. And if that is the case, maybe this man's caretakers or his parents, or depending on his household, he had good parents. So in particular, if they weren't good communicators, then he might not have learned that it's important to share his thoughts and share his feelings. So because of that might be why he's not initiating so much of talking about his feelings. Like this lady was saying, you don't really talk about your feelings because that wasn't something that you grew up doing. That's just something that people have to take in consideration when it comes to that. Again, this situation is kind of sticky because 2 years is a really long time. So I really think you would have to have this conversation with them to really figure out what his reasonings are. And we're going to go into some ways that this woman can do this. And then also, if you're a woman or man and in this situation, and you're trying to further your communication with your spouse, how could you go about having this communication with them, bringing up this topic? So another one, though, would be like if he has difficulties expressing his emotions. So some people, believe it or not, have a hard time expressing and even verbalizing their emotions. Within my Wife Economics course, we really talk about for a whole week within the self and being able to identify your emotions and paying and to actually verbalize them and put words to them. Because if you aren't putting words or able to verbalize what you're going through, then it's going to be really hard for you to express that and communicate that. So that certainly is, one thing that may be an issue of why, children are a part of it. It does. Yeah. Yeah, but most men get married for kids. Let's be real. Most
Children are
men,
part of love. It does when you
yeah.
have them, because marriage is for everyone.
Yeah, I'm assuming. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Marriage is for everyone, and you don't necessarily have to be married, but most men want children. That's
Right.
legacy. That's fact. That's the reason why men want to marry women, is to have children. Now, some men don't. So cool. And if you're one of those that don't want to, then sure, wait until you're 60 to get married if that's your prerogative. It's all going to depend on the person. But if you are a woman who's looking to get married and you want to have kids, which is the majority of women, you do this early. It would be ignorant to wait later, especially because you're going against nature, and you're certainly going to go against what your doctor even is going to recommend, to be honest. So, but I mean, again, that is
Your body, your health,
yeah,
your
it's
energy.
it's. I mean,
Try raising a toddler in your 40s or your 50s.
Yeah, like people. I mean, society will sell you all these dreams, but dude, babies be up all night, and you certainly do not have the same energy that you do in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s or your 50s. You don't.
Right.
Any adult that has had children at a late age, if they don't tell you the truth, like they just flat out bold-faced lying to you if they say that, oh, it's easier to have kids older or it's the same amount. It's not. It's harder. If you have kids older, it's just harder. It is.
You can't get out the bed.
I mean, it is. It's just it's harder. It is. But that it just really depends, again, on the relationship. But if you want to have kids, you want to get married early if you're a woman, and if you're a guy, you want to get married when you're ready. And that's usually around the maturity age for a man would be like 30th, unless he's really mature. So yeah, that's just my take on it. But
well established.
Yeah, it just really depends. Another reason why men could possibly be avoiding communication is if they're afraid of conflict, right? So sometimes we had these conversations before where a guy just doesn't want to, start an argument. He don't want to argue with you. He don't want to fight with you. So sometimes, or even they just don't want to make you upset. So sometimes a man could, be afraid of having certain hard conversations with you if, he is afraid of conflict. That's just one thing. While he may not really be getting in deep with you. Certainly when you hit 2 years, this is something that should have been addressed. You should have been had a couple arguments. Y'all should have been had some type of disagreements. Y'all should have been able to work through communication and conflict. But 2 years certainly is that's the issue that we're taking on with this. But of course, I'm playing devil's advocate here and just trying to see some of the reasons and explore some of these reasons with this lady on why, and with you all on why a man just might not be, communicating, or a woman too. Another one is like, he or she is just not interested in the topic that you're talking about. And that's very common when it comes to women. If we're more, if we're interested in a certain topic that the man might not be interested in, then he's not going to give too much feedback to, whatever you're talking about. And then, yeah, it can seem like he's not wanting to have conversation with you. And that might be the case when she says, they talk. She talks about her stuff, but he doesn't really have too much input. I don't know. Maybe he's not too completely interested in the topics that you're talking about. But That just, it really depends. You would hope your spouse would be interested in wanting to have those conversations with you, but that just really goes along with you trying to figure out why he's not talking. And the last one that I kind of really thought about was, of course, if this man has never had a serious relationship, then he may just not know how to communicate effectively with a spouse. That happens, especially if he's 32. She never mentioned anything about, him being married or anything of that nature. So maybe this is his first serious relationship. He did introduce her to his parents. I'm again, yeah, I'm playing the nice devil. I'm hoping this man is a good man. I'm being, playing devil's advocate here a little bit. But maybe if he is interested and he introduced you to his parents, maybe he doesn't know how to go about communicating effectively with you. And if this woman is really in love with him, like she says, and she wants to further this relationship, or at least try to figure out what his lack of communication is, there has to be some type of conversation about this first, of figuring out why the lack of communication is, and then if this is worth going forward. If he doesn't have any response, if he flat out blatantly lies, if she starts to pick up on more signs that maybe, all right, he's dating other people, like if he's given some type of vibes or feelings of that nature, then yeah, it would certainly be, don't give him any more benefit of the doubt. I'm one to always want to give the benefit of the doubt. Until you have that hard evidence, you kind of got to give the benefit of the doubt, because you never know. Like, people,
she got a lot of hard evidence though.
Well, I mean, yeah, just him not, communicating at all.
Right.
Like that is
over 2 years.
Yeah, that is huge. And it makes me wonder again too, like you said, is this a real relationship? Or is it just kind of like y'all just, he's just sleeping with you, and not really.
Yeah, she's a side chick.
Yeah, like you said. Yeah.
We got comments.
I mean, yeah, that would on our thing. Okay, let's check out our comments. Sorry, y'all, as we get in. Peace, brothers and sisters tuning in. Somebody says, in an example of mine, I was fighting hard dealing with work, trying to secure retirement, build and raise kids, but my spouse could not understand the stress I was under and very combative. Yes. Awesome, because that was literally my last point that I said I just came to mind, and I was like, I did not think about was stress. If the man is under any type of stress, going through a difficult time, losing a job, like he's talking, not like this guy specifically, but like trying to raise kids and building, all these other different things, health problems, maybe, mental health could be in play here, especially if communication is really hard. You gotta explore the option of maybe it's like mental health, but then he may not be as talkative as usual, and he that happens, and that is genuinely, like this guy says, in my case, I was doing my best to stay focused, keep an eye on the prize. Exactly. Like sometimes, and that's why I want to give the benefit of the doubt here, because I don't want to just cast all, throw the whole relationship away, because this is 2 years.
Well, I mean, the problem with the relationship that the lady had presented to us is the fact that he's not offering any emotional support, not offering, from what she's saying, he isn't trying to incorporate a relationship with her.
Right.
So it's different than, him going through something or whatever. He didn't even communicate that at all to her.
Yeah.
He's just keeping her at a distance, going on dates with her, using her and having access to her, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
So 2 years in a relationship, you need to be so trying to eventually move in with that person to see if you all can make it to marriage.
Yeah.
The intention isn't there in the relationship that we're talking about tonight. It's not. It really isn't there. Right. So I mean, he don't have any intentions right now. So I mean, to be fair with you, he needs to communicate that to her.
Right, and she needs to maybe start that conversation.
Right, like, and that was always something that I used to do when I used to date females when I was in my early 20s, from 18 to early 20s. I learned to tell women straight up, I'm not looking for anything. So if you want to, continue with this, then we can do that. But I'm not
Yeah.
looking for any relationships.
Yeah. And that's fair. That's really
Right,
important
because
to
that's on
have.
you. Then
Yeah.
then 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 the accountability is on you to if you want to deal with me.
Yeah.
So that's what I used to do. And you can't be mad at me if you have feelings or if you
Right.
get into your feelings
Right.
because it was fully disclosed. The only way that I could make that more obvious is to make you sign an agreement for you to realize that, hey, I'm not looking for anything. I'm fully
Yeah.
disclosing that I'm not looking for a relationship, marriage, nothing. So the risk
Yeah.
is on you. So
Yeah. She's certainly, ma'am, you got to have this conversation. I think you waited too long to have this conversation, but nonetheless, you're here, better late than never. Hopefully, he's ready to open it up and have this conversation with you. But here's some simple tips for
before
you
you
to go
go
along
on,
and have that. Yeah.
that's the reason why it's important to establish barriers
Right. Yeah.
with people that who you allow into your life. Because if you don't establish barriers early in the relationship, I'm talking about date number 1, date number 2, date number 3. If you don't establish barriers and tell this person what you will put up with and what you won't put up with, then
Yeah.
things like this happen to you. This is how you be in a relationship with somebody for 8 years and you all are not in a committed relationship or marriage. This is how you find yourself living with somebody for 8 years and not married because you still I know people. I've heard stories of people who are living with their significant other, spouse or whatever or what have you, and the men refuse to marry them, but they want them to keep them in the house. But the women wants to get married, and they don't know how to address this or rectify this because if they do, they feel as if they're going to get put out. This is why you need to establish barriers, men and women, in the beginning, the very beginning of your relationships. Because
Yeah.
once you're in that relationship, you all didn't establish barriers, and it's going to be so much harder for you all to try to communicate that stuff, especially if something that is going on that you don't like, and you all didn't communicate this early.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like him going out,
Yeah. Not having anything to.
not calling her while he's at happy hour for 12 hours. 12 hours straight. That's a long happy hour.
Oh,
Things
then you
like
went
that.
home and
And
played
play video
video
games.
games.
So he
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have any, he doesn't, they're not in a committed relationship. She may think they are.
Yeah. She
Brought
may
up
be committed.
concerns to my boyfriend. She calls him her boyfriend.
Yeah, she's committed. I
Right.
believe she's
She's
committed.
committed, but I don't think he's fully sold on this relationship. But has she put out there that, hey, I don't operate, we operate together. If I'm in a relationship with you, I need to know
Yeah.
these things for your safety and your security or whatever or what have you. But that was not established. So everyone here understand that as an example, before you get into any relationship, establish your barriers and say what you will put up with and what you won't.
Yeah.
So that you both are aligned and on one accord.
Yeah, that is so
No
true.
surprises.
That's so true. So please take the time and have this conversation like tomorrow. After you watch this, I have it after you watch this video. If you got confidence enough to do it, I would, because now it's been too long.
Yeah,
Now,
it's too long.
I would never. I have never. I granted the fact that I had
The best
serious relationships before you, but I
Right.
never waited that long before knowing what the heck was going on.
Right.
Like, that's a waste of time.
If these two people decided to one day get married, I would advise that they get a prenuptial agreement. Because they did not assert those boundaries in the beginning, then that is your saving grace. The second time is before marriage, so that you all can establish what you will put up with and what you won't put up with, and here's the penalties.
Yeah, they ain't even there yet.
No, they gotta get there.
Yeah, you really just gotta get him to talk. You gotta get him to explain to you
where you at in this relationship.
Yeah, and
why
he's having a lack of communication. In particular, that matters the most, in my opinion, because the lack of communication is affecting you, and you need to know why he's not talking more so that you can understand. Maybe it's something that you can help him with. Maybe it's something that, I don't know, maybe something that you all can work together on. Whatever it is, in particular, you have to have this conversation, because not talking about it and you not knowing is just going to cause more anxiety, like you're saying. So first, of course, like when we always say, when you're talking about having a conversation with your spouse, before real quick, we're going to run into, for all of our new viewers joining in, we're just tackling in this question that was given to us, and we're going to talk about how she can address this first, this whole
The
topic
lack
of
of
not
communication.
communicating. Yeah. And then we're going to get into signs that, hey, you're a mediocre communicator and how to fix it, because that's actually very important to have. So we're going to go into that a little bit later. But first, for this young lady, choose a good time where you're both relaxed, where you're both comfortable with each other, something that you're familiar when you come on. Maybe give him a heads up that, hey, I really want to talk to you about something important, so that he's aware of, this whole conversation coming on about, and just make sure that it's a good time for that, because you want to allocate enough time for him to give you a reason. You need to have an explanation. And if he's not giving you an explanation, if he doesn't want to have this conversation, take that as your answer. Take that as your explanation that, hey,
It ain't gonna work out
because you can't be in a relationship with
by
somebody that's
yourself.
not gonna communicate.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can start by expressing your feelings. Don't blame him. Don't say,
I can't get in touch
why,
with you.
yeah, right.
Why you always gone every Friday?
Yeah.
Who are
you
you
make
with?
me upset doing this. Yeah. Try not to blame. Don't blame.
You always
Don't blame. Yeah.
don't generalize.
Yeah.
Don't use generalizations.
Yeah. Express why your feelings are the way they are, what may have triggered them, and be specific about how or what you would like him to do differently. In particular, the best thing I can think about is this whole thing of going out, and how, goes out and doesn't say anything for like 12 hours, and you wonder why he doesn't, why he doesn't ask you if you want to go or anything like that. That would be one of those specific moments that you could bring up, and you can say, hey, I don't mind. I love that you like going out to happy hour. Maybe I could join you, or maybe you could, just let me know that this is what's going on. I worry about you when I don't hear from you. I don't want, I just want to know that you're okay. Maybe hit me up and let me know when you get home, or whatever the case may be. Something that he could do to kind of help alleviate that. And certainly you just really want to see if he's even open to this.
Receptive.
If this is something that he's open to doing. If he's just flat out like, no thanks, then there's your answer, so it's really going to be up to you, just him, and how, like you said, men control that. So it's really up to him and how he responds. And just prepare yourself for this. Like, be prepared either way it goes. If he is very open and receptive, great. Now you can work on these tools that we're going to give you later on how you can improve your communication. If he isn't too receptive of it, all right, cool. Take it for what it is. Don't dwell on it, but you got to move on, and you kind of need to,
you got to detach.
Yeah.
Detach and get an exit strategy.
Yeah. Certainly.
Stop calling.
Yeah. But
stop communicating
overall,
with
in this, yeah, definitely. Overall, in this, you want to be willing to express it.
You'd be surprised by how many women that still be trying to communicate back with guys that treat them like this.
Yeah.
They call them, hey, what you doing? Hey, they're thinking about you and all this other. And then they fall into this trap of, being, back into the same situation that they were in before. I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, it happens a lot,
Yeah.
You get used. This is how people get used. They allow themselves to get used.
Yeah. Then, prepare yourself either way. But certainly be willing to listen to the reasons he's giving you, especially if he does open up. This is prime time where you need to be all ears, just listening to why he's not communicating. And if he does really open up and give you some valid reasonings, like what we have talked about before, like maybe he's going through a difficult time, or he's not, he's not used to communicating, or he, was raised in a household where communication just looked different. If these are some of the things that he's talking about, try to get him to open up to you even more and explain, so that you can really get an understanding of where his mind's at, what's going on, and if he's genuine, if he is
intentional,
BSing you, right, or if he's genuine. That is really important, and that's really why you need to be all ears and listening. So after you get your feelings out, kind of just try to listen as much as you possibly can. And of course, if there are legit reasonings to, why this would work or not, why this would work, because he's telling you, hey, some other things are going on, just be patient and understanding, because people, especially if it's a serious mental issue, people are going to need that patience and that understanding. And of course, encourage him to seek professional help if necessary. So if he has certainly come Somebody says, I don't know why this not gonna work. The like needed person, those, yeah, that is so true. It certainly, like, I'm always one to, you gotta have that conversation and really see for yourself, get that evidence for yourself. So this conversation is certainly gonna help her see, if this is gonna work or not, based off of if he communicates. And I'm hoping, hey, he comes out and says maybe he got something going on and that he really just, he's sorry or whatever. But 2 years, I know we're both thinking the same thing.
He didn't even tell her he loved her in 2
Yeah,
years.
2 years. Yeah. I mean,
That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, she's if I, she, I guess she needs closure. She would need to get some closure from this.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah, and that's what this conversation.
But it's going to be like chewing glass for her, especially from hearing what he has to say, or if he doesn't respond at all.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, she did put herself in this situation because you have to set your intentions and make sure that the person is aligned with you. Barriers, understanding your barriers, what you will and not put up with. And she put up with a whole lot and didn't set any barriers up for their relationship or the lack thereof relationship or what have you. So, you have to also hold accountability for that. It doesn't seem as if like he promised her anything. It doesn't seem, I'm not seeing any of that. So, this is real world things. She's still young. She's 26. So, she needs to find someone who she can be intentional with as far as what relationships look like.
Yeah. And certainly, if you're not getting any answers, or if these answers seem like some lies, if they don't really seem genuine, don't waste any more time on this. They say you got to give yourself the time to heal, of course, from the relationship. So hopefully this gives you closure, but try not to dwell on it too much, and so that it hinders you from taking too long before moving forward, because you're a young woman and you want to get out here and you want to date and you want to find the guy that's for you, and you don't want to waste any more time on somebody that isn't. So that's the best I got.
And the longer you wait, the harder the heartbreak and the breakup is.
Certainly.
So you don't want to have to endure that. So it's best to cut your losses.
Yeah.
If you have to. So all right.
Well, let's head on into, here are some signs that you could be a mediocre communicator. Yep. And that happens.
Yep. So number one, you don't listen well. Mm-hmm. So you interrupt, you tune out, or don't pay attention to what others are saying. This can lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and arguments. If you're not listening to your spouse, you're not really hearing their needs or concerns. This can make them feel like you don't care about them or their feelings, of course. Mm-hmm. I agree. So that is number one to me. So listening.
Yeah. That people don't think, but I think when it comes to communicating, it's maybe like, it probably is about 50-50 of what comes out your mouth, and then the other half what you take in your ears and how you listening. So listening plays a huge part, like you said. Yep. Another one, you're not clear about your message. So this is one that people may not really understand as being, something that really does need to be worked on when you're trying to be a good communicator. If you're vague, if you're ambiguous, if you use jargon or say other metaphors or whatever that others don't understand, this can lead to confusion. It can lead to frustration, and it will certainly probably lead to conflict within a relationship. This is why it's super important that you learn to be clear on what you're trying to say, what you're trying, express to your spouse, what you want them to understand. So then that way they're not misinterpreting your words or even your intentions, which will certainly lead in the long run to misunderstandings and arguments. So this is why within our Wife Economics course, we spend so much time on clarifying within yourself what you want, your desires, your needs, your emotions, all of that, and being able to come to terms on how to verbalize this. So then that way you're able to communicate this in a way that's, very clear for someone to understand.
Right, because he miscommunicated to her that they were in a relationship somehow. So that's something that she don't understand, is that they're not in a relationship, but she believes it. Yeah. So number 3, you're not concise. You ramble on and on, or you got bogged down in details. or
Mm-hmm.
you get bogged down in details. So you can make your spouse lose interest, or it can make them feel like you're not taking their time seriously. So
Yeah.
if you're rambling on and on, your spouse is likely to tune out, to start thinking about other things.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. This can make it difficult to have a productive conversation. Not a deal breaker, but you just got to reel the person in and say, I'm just looking for the point. No disrespect, not to cut you off or anything. Just, if you can give me the meat, give me the meat and potatoes, and I love
All
you,
right.
but I'm
Yeah.
not trying to rush you or anything,
Yeah.
but you are rambling.
Yeah, that could be kind of hard too for women, I guess, because in a way, women find clarity. Often, we find clarity through communicating and through talking. So
Through
sometimes,
rambling.
yeah, sometimes, especially if a woman is like telling her like what happened at work, and she's telling the long story, because in her mind, the long story is
I mean,
important. But
men do too. Men do too, especially if
yeah,
we talk about things that happen.
yeah, it can happen.
My detail aren't as great as yours.
Yeah,
But we do too. We talk about things and try to add in details that
yeah,
help set the scene and set the picture.
yeah, yeah. But that's something you want to get a grips on in a way, being able to get concise with what you want to say.
Right. Because your attention span is but only so long now these times. But
Oh man, you're right with like TikTok and stuff like that, and certainly if it's not a subject that you're interested in. So yeah. Another one, you're not persuasive, right? So you can't get your point across, or you can't convince the other side to see what you're trying to say. Why would this matter? Well, it can make it difficult for your spouse to understand you. And in particular, it can really make it hard to conflict resolve when you aren't coming off as confident in your own beliefs, and you're not able to get your spouse to see your side of things, so that then they're able to resolve conflicts with you or make decisions with you in a way that's together, not just what they believe, because you want your side to be considered as well, and that can only be done if you are actually concise on it.
mm-hmm.
That's an old one.
You want to show the comment?
Oh yeah, got it. So it says, being ex-military, I'm very direct. I'm not the best communicator, but a lot of people don't like to hear the truth, or want to uphold standards. Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, certainly. And that is so true. This is one of the reasons why it's very important that you have those conversations on how you naturally grew up, or the things you experienced in life that got you to be the way you are.
Well, and then also to you understanding how other people communicate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important understanding how other people communicate. That's what I learned in management.
Yeah.
Is that different people have different communication styles, and they're not receptive, or they don't take in information well, depending on the type of communication you address with them. It's not it's really, it's not a one size fit all whole when it comes to communication. And in particular with me, I think my wife communicates best with me if she puts her hand on my shoulder or my back, and then talks to me and look in my eye.
Yeah.
That helps me out a lot when it comes to communication.
Yeah. And you did a great job communicating that early, so that I was able to pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important. So like with you and this guy, how he was saying, he was ex-military and stuff, having that conversation, I'm sure, is great for your relationships, because then your spouse can be like, oh wow, then I know that this is how I can better get my ideas or my opinions or whatever I need to say to you across, so that you're better receptive of it. Because we're all going to be different. Some people don't need that when it comes to communication or whatever it is, but it's really just about being able to get your spouse to be receptive to what you're trying to say, right. At all times, really. That's important. You got it?
You're not engaging.
Yeah.
So if you're not engaging, it may come off as being boring, monotone, or you don't make eye contact.
Yeah.
So that's very important. Eye contact is very important to be able to show that you're clear and present.
Mm-hmm.
So this can make it difficult to get your point across, or it can make your spouse feel like you're not confident in your own beliefs.
Yeah.
If you can't get your spouse to see your side of things, it can be difficult to resolve conflicts or make decisions together.
Yeah. Or in particular, I'm sorry.
That's what we were talking about, being engaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's exactly it. And in particular, you can always tell through, I think they say the eyes is the windows to the
So
soul. If you can look at your spouse, it's certainly if you're upset or if you're happy or if you're sad, it's great to have that eye contact, because then your spouse is really able to see, wow, like, especially if whatever happened, if it's something that maybe they hurt you about or something like that, it's great to connect with them in that moment, because they can really see how that impacted them and be able to connect with you. Eye contact is a big one. And
right,
I think in particular, it's now maybe how you can really tell if someone's genuine.
right. That's what I was thinking about with this
Yeah.
situation with her, was that how well was the eye contact in your relationship in the
Yeah.
beginning? A lot of times people have what they say, if people who's hiding something don't necessarily have a good eye contact with you. They don't hold good eye contact with you if they're hiding secrets, or they're cheating on you, or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be. So that was probably one of the red flags that she probably missed early in their relationship, was the lack of eye contact.
Yeah. Unless they're just like some master manipulator and they're just like, able to stare you down and lie you in your face. That's a horrible
I
thing, but
Yeah, I doubt that. I
yeah.
doubt that he's that good. I mean, because she's read these flags out there, like you said. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
should have been writing differently. Like, there's no red flags at all, but he just won't communicate with me.
Right,
You
right,
know,
yeah. Yep,
and then it would
that's
have
so
been
true.
real short. What do I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, then yeah, that's the master manipulator vibes. Then
Yeah, for sure.
he takes me out on dates. We communicate. He don't communicate though, but he checks off all the boxes, but he doesn't tell me he
Right,
loves me.
right, yeah. Yep, that's so true. Also, too, in particular, another way that, mediocre communication is if you're not responsive. So if you don't answer questions or you maybe take too long to respond, this can make your
Like
spouse feel
12
like,
hours.
yeah, they can make you feel like you're bored or you're uninterested or you just flat out don't care. Like, you really want to be able to connect with your spouse and show them that, like, hey, I'm listening to you, I'm engaging with you, I'm not I'm trying to hold your attention and hope you don't go entertain yourself in other ways or whatever, and have your thoughts go off. It'll just, overall, it can lead to like distance and over a big disconnect from the relationship if you
2 years
aren't communicating. Yeah, and aren't responsive. And in particular, that's kind of what this guy was. He hasn't really been responsive. She'll talk about her
for two
things and
years.
yeah, he won't say nothing. Like, yeah, that's that
Mm.
not good. It's really not
Yep.
good.
And then also too, you're not adaptable.
Yeah.
You're inflexible. You don't adjust your communication styles to the situations,
Yeah.
or you're not open to feedback.
Yeah.
That can make it difficult to resolve conflicts or make decisions together. If
Yeah.
you're not using or willing to compromise or adjust your communication style, it can be difficult to find common ground with your spouse. This can lead to tensions and conflict in the relationship. So
Yeah.
understanding how to adapt, that's what I was talking about earlier, management style,
Hmm.
being able to communicate differently depending on who you're talking to, so that they thoroughly understand you.
Yeah.
um, because some people are not receptive at all, depending on what type of communication style you're using.
Yeah.
So that goes into understanding that helps you to also to get your way, to find that way that you can resolve conflict, compromise, negotiate,
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yep.
That's something that I learned in my career, because I have to use negotiations all the time
Yeah.
in order to help deals to come about and whatnot. So that's how
Yep.
you get your way, and sometimes you don't. So that's one of the arts of negotiation too, is realizing that it's okay to say no,
Yeah. Yeah.
and back out of the situation.
Yeah, and being flexible. And even if your spouse may, communicate in a different way that it's a little harder for you to actually communicate in, maybe being open to, going ahead and trying, to be a little more receptive to how they communicate and working on out, maybe softening up your approach, how whatever is, needed for things to be a little better, be willing to do that. It's certainly not a good thing to not be open to feedback of how you can, get better when it comes to communicating, especially when it's coming from your spouse, right?
Yep.
That's the main person you want to be good on communicating with. So, yeah.
And then also too, you're not respectful. You're rude, condescending, or you interrupt others.
Yeah.
So this can make your spouse feel belittled, dismissed, or even abused.
Yeah.
If you're rude, condescending, or interrupt your spouse, it can damage their self-esteem and make them feel like you're not good enough for you, that they're not good enough for you.
Yeah.
This can lead to a lot of pain and resentment in this relationship or in the relationship. That reminds me of like I hear that about like rap music, the female rap music, and how it's very condescending to males. So
Mm.
the young females pick that up and they get into new relationships, and they approach relationships that way by being
Yeah.
condescending to males, and that ultimately dooms them, dooms relationships, and then also to their outlook on what relationships are supposed to look like.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be rude, and yeah, you can't. You really don't want to belittle your spouse or make them feel like they're not good enough for a nice, good conversation with you. That can certainly ruin a good thing.
Right, especially if they're a good person,
Yeah.
man or woman, who are there to
Mm-hmm.
serve you, and
Yeah.
they've been serving you, they've been providing for you, in their role, and then you may see that these alpha type um, people, whether man or woman, can often at times um, communicate in this way, rude, condescending, or whatnot. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it takes empathy. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be empathetic and understand the feelings of your spouse and understand how to respectfully communicate
Yep.
so that you don't have to, start having conflict in your relationship.
Yeah, that actually leads right on to the next one, which is super important if you're not aware of your impact. So, what do we mean by that? You're not aware of how you're communicating and how that's affecting others, or you just simply don't care,
Don't
right?
care.
You
Yep.
just want to communicate how you want to communicate, and you just like, I don't care how you take it. That not only is that rude, it's selfish. It's no way to start a relationship, and you can really hurt your spouse's feelings without even realizing it because you're just saying whatever you feel like versus, really thinking about what you're saying and thinking about whether or not the effect or whether or not what you're saying is going to lead to the effect that you want, especially when it comes to communicating. We always say every conversation, believe it or not, you should have an intention on why you're saying what you're saying and what you're hoping to get across so that then you're able to achieve that whole goal of communicating. It's not just saying words for the word vomit of it. It's actually so that you can get across a message or an idea or for someone to be receptive to what it is you're trying to communicate. So certainly don't make the mistake of not being aware of how you're coming off to your spouse and listen to them. If they're telling you that, hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me, or hey, I don't like the way you're saying this, or maybe even hey, I don't like how you talk to somebody else. That take that in, and that goes kind of right back to what we were saying before about being receptive to that feedback. You need that. If somebody's telling you that there's a way that you can improve based off of their interaction that they've had with you certainly need to take that in. So then that way you can get better. You don't want to stay the same and keep getting the same mediocre results because you're not looking to elevate yourself and elevate your communication.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the last one, you're not willing to improve.
Mm-hmm.
You're not open to feedback, or you don't take steps to improve your communication skills. This can make your spouse feel like you're not committed to the relationship.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to take steps to improve your communication skills, it can be difficult to resolve conflicts or build a strong foundation for your relationship.
Yes.
So, all of these 10 items that we just talked about, if you find yourself in a relationship, not married yet,
Or married. I
oh
think.
yeah, or married, these are things that are red flags that you need to address and fix.
Mhm.
Talk more about with your spouse, hoping that they are receptive and they are able to improve
Yeah.
upon their skills and communication skills. If you are in a relationship and you all are suffering and arguing a lot, these may be the reasons why. And if you can improve on these 10 things,
Yeah.
then these will help you to alleviate the situation of arguing and issues that you are having.
Yeah. Yep, because you really want to be able to do the things you need to do so that you can build those stronger relationships and really connect with your spouse on a deeper level by listening and understanding. So, here are some quick tips. We're kind of running into our time, but we really want to be sure to leave y'all with some quick tips on how you can improve your communication overall. These are things that you'll be able to apply not only in your romantic relationships, but certainly even your business life, your personal life, just in general. These are great tips that are going to help you become a great communicator and move from mediocre to stellar. So the first one we kind of got into was practice active listening. So this means paying attention to what others are saying, actively listening to what they're saying, asking for clarification if you need it, and even better, being able to summarize their points if you're going into a response. I always say, don't listen to respond, listen to first take in what the person is saying, and then formulate your response after you've heard what they said. Because if you're too busy formulating your response in your head before they've even finished what they're saying, you weren't listening. And that's the major part of being able to communicate, because you might have missed some important details. So, and then also too, like I had said, it provides you the opportunity to clarify. If you heard something and you want to hear it again, or maybe want them to clarify that a little more, you want to be sure to listen so that then you can ask for that clarification, but certainly be able to listen first.
Yep. Also, be clear and concise.
Yeah.
So get to the point quickly and avoid using jargon or technical terms that your audience may not understand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you want to do. You're looking for clarity.
Yeah.
You
Especially with men.
Right. I mean, but women too, you know. So you want to be clear and concise. Get to the point quickly. Those type of things.
I say with men in particular, because especially when you're asking a man to do something, I think about, maybe this is the wife in me.
Oh yeah,
but when I'm asking you to do something,
I need specifics.
Yeah, and I go straight to the point. Like I'm even like that. I had to learn to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you would want to, especially early in our relationship, I would want to give all these details of how I, specifically needed to go, but he would miss the main point because I talk so much.
Yeah, because you weren't concise.
Yeah. So that's a huge one. Being clear and concise, especially if you're trying to give directions or feedback or something like that. Just, clear and concise.
And be persuasive. So use evidence and logic, facts to support your arguments. And make sure your message is tailored. Message is tailored to your audience.
Yeah. Yep. That's big. Especially when you're conflict resolving, or even if you're bringing up an issue to your spouse and you're not quite sure how they're going to be receptive of it. In order to be persuasive, bring evidence, bring some type of logic.
Statistical data, researched information,
text messages, anything like evidence, like something, anything that would
articles,
help. Yeah,
video.
Yep.
Something to help bring about your message and what you're trying to portray.
Yeah.
Educate them on the information you're trying to give them.
Yeah.
But make sure that it helps best if it is itself clear and concise, straight to the point.
Yeah.
So statistical data, stats, numbers, and then apply that into logic.
Yep, that's a big one. That will really help. Be engaging. So certainly use your eye contact when you're talking to your spouse. I always recommend this. Use your eye contact. Gestures, facial expressions, all of those things help to keep your spouse engaged in what you're saying, or in general, anybody that you're talking to. It's going to keep them engaged in what you're saying. May come off as a little animated, but people pay attention to stuff like that. And certainly too, being able to pay attention to body language and stuff like that, you'll be able to recognize, when your spouse is engaged, when they're not engaged, when it's a good time to have this conversation with them, when it's not, by just simply being able to pay attention to, physical body language and what's going on.
Yep. And be responsive.
Yeah.
Answer questions promptly and be open to feedback.
Yeah. Don't wait forever before you
respond back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't do that. That's going to give them a whirl of thoughts to think
anxiety.
Yeah. Especially
and conflict.
Yeah, and if it is too much to text, if you having an issue, you can't respond back quick or whatever the case may be, let them know. Be like, hey, I'm caught up in something. Yeah, call them something, or just say, hey, I'm caught up in something. Give me a couple minutes and I'll give you a more detailed answer later. But for right now, I can't talk. Just doing that will really help.
Yep. Be adaptable. So adjust your communication style to the situation, like we said before, and be respectful of your spouse's needs.
Yes. This is huge, being adaptable, especially if it's you got wide, you're talking about being married to a person, you're going to have a wide range of topics that you're always going to be talking about or have to talk about, issues that you got to address. But every issue is not going to have to be addressed in the same way. You're going to have to look and see how is the best way that I can get my spouse to be receptive. That's huge. So be adaptable to that for sure.
Yep. And beware of your impact. So pay attention to how your communication is affecting others and be mindful of your tone and body language.
The yelling. Yeah.
Finger pointing.
Yeah. Even folding your arms, eye rolling, all of that. Like, people pick up on that stuff, especially if it's your spouse and they're actually paying attention. You can not actually tell your spouse that, oh, I'm upset, but all your body language will exude you being upset. So, just be aware of how you're coming off and you're communicating, because that's really going to have a big impact on your relationship.
Yep. And be willing to improve. So be open to feedback and take steps to improve your communication skills on an ongoing basis. The key here, ongoing basis. Just because you did it one time doesn't mean that you need more self-improvement. Improving your communication skills takes time and effort, but it's worth it. Trust me.
Yeah.
Good communication is essentially for success in all areas of life, from your personal relationships to your personal career. So you can take what we've given you all, these jewels, this blueprint for communication, and then apply it to every and any aspect of your life, into any relationships that you may have with friends, your coworkers, and your spouse.
Yep. That is so true. All of this is great stuff. Take it in.
Yep.
Let's see. We got any more questions, comments, real quick? Want it on in. That question is that everything good? Well, hold up. Let me check. Instagram, Full House, Sup Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yep. Thank y'all for tuning in. So for our Instagram followers, subscribers, if you all can also too, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the same thing, Blueprint Family Jewels. We really appreciate it. As our aim here is to help people build better relationships, better families. Ultimately, that leads to better communities and a better nation. So that is the goal here, is to help improve our communication, our relationships, so that we can appreciate the hearts. Thank you. So that we can, all do our part. This is me and my wife's community service. This is our service to you all. This is your soundboard. So if you all have anything you all want to talk about in relating to relationships or family, we're here for you. Monday through Friday. Also, too, if you want to remain anonymous, we do look for topics of discussion. So if you all have anything good that you all want to talk about, please let us know. And if you want to submit it anonymously, you can go to www.wifeconomics.com/submit a question. Also, too, for the women out there, if you want to gain more wife skills and understand what it takes today in this modern age to be a wife, because a lot of this traditional roles and things have been lost in our society. So wifeconomics.com is your resource for all of that information. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Yeah, we got another great one for tomorrow. We had a great couple questions to get into, so I'm excited to see how we can tie these into some topics for the week. So
what's tomorrow?
Tune on in. I got to pick first. I ain't quite.
We got two
decided.
that we're picking from.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't quite.
We're gonna keep it a mystery, so it's up to you all to decide whether you all going to come back tomorrow night or not. But no, yeah. But we really appreciate you all for coming out tonight, taking your time out to be with us. So we will see you all tomorrow night, same time, same place. Peace.
Peace. You know what? I wish we're gonna get a outro and intro.